For anyone online, just mute your mic unless you're speaking, please. So,
Right. So we have a busy day today. So first of all, how's everyone doing? Alaikum. How you doing? You doing good? That's your son? No? What's your name? Jamil? Who you here with? Your grandma? All right. How old are you, Jamil?
7.
Wow. That's what I'm talking about. 7. Alhamdulillah. Okay. So we're going to start out, of course, with a question, as we usually do. Okay, so we're going to do Fatima, Amira, Fatima, Sabora, Tiffany, Aisha, Vanessa, and Regina. No, S.
Yes. Stephanie.
Stephanie, forgive me. And Sister Janice, the 3 of you. And then Qais, Salim.
I'm managing.
You're managing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can leave me out of the conversation.
But that's not up to you.
Please. Please.
Okay. Brother Salim and Brother Rashid, Adib, and Hakeem, Brother Jabir.
Can you say Muhammad?
And Brother Jabir and Abdulaziz and Bernie. So what we're going to do, we have a big question today. Who do we have online, guys?
I know Sister Saida is here. I invited a few more people, but I don't know if they're looking at it live or if they're in the interactive.
Okay.
Sister Saida can interact.
Okay, so the question is it ever okay to be angry at Allah? Is it ever okay? Is it ever okay to be angry at Allah? So there's a personal context. Then we're going to have some real fun. We're going to put it into some very specific context.
Is it ever okay?
Is it ever okay? Very specific. Okay? Is it ever, I'm gonna write it out. Is it ever okay to be angry with So we're going to go ahead and start. We're going to talk about it. We'll take a couple of minutes, 2 or 3 minutes, and we'll get some feedback.
But I think we do get ice.
The answer is no. Get me.
I'm saying.
It's yellow, but it will happen to be humid. I mean, you have to be a little simple. But now, but then catch myself in
But I mean, I guess not. I mean, I don't say that it's not. And that's a thing. Shocked. People can say.
We're gonna take one more minute.
I'm sure.
Well, that's probably what they asked you to get to. I'm guilty of, well, you know, but not like a few different. I don't know. This, you know, see that's one of them. Now, don't tell me you're gonna say it's no right or answer.
They're discussing the question.
We put this in it. Yeah, but it's just, well, okay, you know. Well, I said, even if you do it, maybe so. Okay, inshallah. Time. Right, so first of all, I picked up on the energy in the room. There's a lot of nervous energy around this question. So I know we're on to something. And we're on to something good. The questions that make us a little nervous and uncomfortable are the questions that usually lead to some insights. Right? Because the thing about, so the thing about our relationship with our Lord is real serious. Because our lives are real serious. Like if you looked at how a lot of people conduct their lives, you wouldn't get that feeling. Yeah. But when you think, like when Allah says in the Quran that He created us for the purpose of worship, that is one of the most powerfully emphatic statements that you can ever read. Because when you unpack it, wow. Because your life is real serious. Now, a lot of times in society, we're not oriented to take life as seriously as we should. But when you think about it, what is the reason for the grave prohibition against murder? Why is it that killing someone is one of the worst offenses that a person can commit, and it is only permissible under the most strict of circumstances? Because the human being is serious design. the human life is serious. The process of bringing that life into existence, Allah bless women to be a part of that, and it's serious. It's not something that just happens just because. And when you read the Quran, Allah refers to Bani Adam, the children of Adam, as sacred beings. So, we teach firearm safety, firearm instruction, right? One of the most profound and grave realities is that a person comes to terms with what it actually means to take a life. You have to face that because it's real serious. It's a real serious thing. It's not, right?
Exactly.
I mean, that human life, that's why when you think about it, you know, the metaphors that we hear about people in the military and the super soldiers and all this stuff, what do we hear? What kind of words do we hear associated with that? Programming, conditioning, because it's in our instinctive nature to recognize the sanctity of another being like us. It's in us. So if I violate another human being that way, something happened. Something happened to my nature, especially if I just do it with no remorse, apparently, no regard, no caring, heart, you know how people say heartless, merciless. That's a robot. That's not the human being. Right? So the human life is very, very serious. So the questions around the reality of the soul are very, very serious. So this question, is it ever okay to be angry with Allah? It's one of those questions where it's okay. Like Rashid said, you know, stop playing. Why you doing this to us? No, this is the good stuff, right? From my perspective, at least. So I'm very interested in hearing from the group of Vanessa, Stephanie, Sister Denise. Y'all talked a lot.
We did. We had to growing up. Okay, I understand that it's okay to be angry with the law. That's kind of touching. But I believe it's okay, depends on what you do with it. You know, depends on what you do with it, because if you don't allow it to take you to a whole deep, you know, you might be angry for an instant, but it could bring you back to reality, you know. So I don't know.
Yes, you do. You just said it.
I know, but
Listen. What did we establish? First of all, there are no right or wrong answers. You asked a very significant question. The question that you asked was, if someone says emphatic, why don't you say we ask?
If a person says emphatically okay to be angry with Allah, it, to me, it's tantamount to being short-minded, particle, you know. Because I mean, to me, it's like sure, cool for whatever. Like you know, man, you know, it's like turning against law.
But what are you referring to? Are you referring to anger, emotion?
Anger.
Or are you referring to what Sister Janisa said?
No,
It depends on what you do.
anger.
You're talking about just the emotion?
Uh-huh.
Okay. That's a bit harsh, but okay. I'm gonna tell you anyway. We're gonna talk about it. Okay, so
My thought was that you can't be I was taught not to be angry. Even though my intentions, I can get angry for something that happened to me, but my mother always taught me that you shouldn't be. So it was always a hard process because every time I cried when something happened to me, like, he's punishing me. And she would always say, no, keep your head up, keep your head up, trust in God, and keep moving. And so I would always have to stop what I'm doing or stop thinking that God is punishing me, because she always taught me, even whatever her religion was different, but she always taught me.
If I may, what was her religion?
She was a Christian.
Very, okay.
And she always taught me God. She never said Jesus to me. But, you know.
That's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah. But she always told me to trust God and keep my head up and keep moving. So I always would say, well, okay. She would say, wipe your tears and trust in God and keep going. So then on this shoulder, if I wanted to be angry, but on this shoulder, this shoulder, it was like, oh, he's punishing me. But on this shoulder, I would have to wipe my tears, because she would say, stop, because God still gave you that half full cup. Because you still listening, you still can hear, you can speak, because tomorrow's going to be a better day. So I had to start not to learn that God still loved me. So as I got older, now I'm not so angry at what happens to me, because I love Allah. And so I'm not angry.
So
that's my thought.
There's something to say about that old wisdom of our elders, right? One of the differences that we're going to notice, for any of us that have had any experiences with Christian theology or even Jewish theology, is that there are differences in how this question will be answered. So your answer to the question speaks to more of a quote unquote Islamic theological
Hurt me already.
Why you say I know we're gonna get a lot of wisdom from this whole group? Why you put it like that?
Because we got anger issues that are different. Our articulation of anger is different.
That's an oxymoron.
But Sister Samora, what did you and Sister Fatima talk about?
We could not think of an incident where it would be okay to be angry with the law.
That's good.
I shared with her the story of Eunice where at the end of his tests and trials, at one point he was like, yo, Allah, what, you know, but immediately, you know, he withdrew. And the reason we talked about it not being okay was that it's a level of faith, or it's a level of your understanding of your relationship with your Lord, that if he loves you, he's going to do good for you. And if you know that, you have to. And that test, whenever you are being tested, the remembrance that those things are the things that draw you near and give you divine proximity.
So there was an interesting chat going on here and here. So who's gonna, well, you brothers want to go first, or you?
Okay, I'll go first this time.
Go ahead, Keith.
I said that ultimately it wouldn't be okay, but I said we'll get angry as human beings, because I mean, when things happen, we just have this passionate feeling towards whatever's happening. But the reason I said it wasn't okay is that it's like questioning whatever the color is, but I don't know if I should say, allows us to, he allows us to get angry and see like what's going on, but I don't know.
You want to say that again?
He allows us to be angry and then look at it again, and we may do that. I mean, he doesn't have to do that. Maybe that's mercy by itself, but I also talked about, I brought up the bliss, and I said, well, he was angry because he lost his position, had to submit to Adam, didn't want to do it, and all this hatred and vitriol towards him, saying, because you allowed me to wrong and go get dead. If you read the Quran, he'll always say how he hates you and wants to, bring you down, and he's your enemy and all this. So it has to be anger there. I think it's anger there. It may not be called anger, but it might. I was thinking myself, it had to be there, have that kind of attitude towards, somebody else.
Okay, so it's important that we look at definitions.
Yes.
So what is anger?
Two responses on mine.
What is anger? What is anger?
It's a feeling. It's
It's a feeling.
deep emotion.
Emotion.
It's well, it can be an extreme emotion.
So let's unpack that. What kind of deep emotion is it?
What's the resentment?
Resentment. Yeah. Hurt, hatred, disappointment.
What's that?
Disappointment.
Go ahead, Vice. I see you over there twitching. Even though it's just support.
Right.
Mostly it's sorrow. It's more sorrow than anything, but it takes a long time for us to get to the place where we realize that it's sorrow, and the sorrow is.
So is there an arc?
Yes.
Is there an arc?
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean when I said an arc? So
It's one extreme to
this
the
is
other.
one point,
Up and down.
then we go here.
I think the piece I
So
want,
to what you said about what you do with it. So go ahead, Vice.
yeah, I think in terms of defining anger, it's and it comes from what some people are saying, but it's more of a secondary emotion that you don't just get. So I understand the art piece, but like when you think of an iceberg, anger sits at the top there, and then at the bottom of it you have the resentment, the hurt, the disappointment, the sorrow, the sadness, and all of that. So there's a stage of feelings or emotions that you are going through that lead to anger. And this is, so that's at least how I have adopted a definition of anger. So my response to that can be very.
Now that definition suggests something that's slightly different, but go ahead.
Oh, no, that's not before.
Oh, that was it?
Yeah, before I get kicked out.
I think it leads the other way. I think that you start with anger, you start with rage and all of the physical stuff that comes with rage, and eventually you get to sorrow.
Eventually you get to what?
To sorrow. So you move away from rage to the other emotions and ultimately to sorrow.
It could be, well, it's like chicken and egg kind of thing. Because if you have like awareness, you can know that right in your subconscious or through time, so you can know that I know like I'm mad at myself for what I did, or I'm like disappointed in myself for what I did, but I'm going to choose to be angry. But some people it's not as, they're not as aware. So yes, it seems like you're starting at anger, you're kind of uncovering the truth. But for some people, they kind of know. So they start at the truth, they go to anger and come back down. Something like that.
Talk about that, Diana.
Okay. I think I definitely agree with Price and sorry that it starts that way and builds up to anger. But what I think though is that the transition between sometimes is so quick that we miss it. Like it's kind of like how kids all the time say he said this, he made me hit him. You know what I mean? Like they missed the decision process in between, that they had a choice and they chose this. Like I think anger is a decision that people don't realize they made.
Right.
You did decide.
You decide to be angry. I don't think people realize that you decide to be angry though.
Yeah, I do think, and I agree with what's being said. I do think that anger is very discernible. You can see anger, you can feel anger, you understand what anger looks like. And so it's very easy to go, no, I was angry first. And all the things that lead up to anger aren't as discernible. They aren't as clear cut. So the feeling badly about self, no, it's not me, it's that person, and all that rationalization and that internal dialogue back and forth, that happens very, very slowly, but we don't always, or we can't always verbalize or articulate what that is, but we can very easily verbalize the anger. And so anger comes like a truck hitting us, but the other stuff that's slow and steady and that's sitting with us and that's all the whisperings, that happens and we aren't taking note of it.
Right.
We just take note of the outcome.
And just to add on to that, in terms of emotions that we are familiar with and that we are able to name easily, we can name happiness, we can name anger, The other ones, they have subtleties in there that we tend to have more difficulty naming. So even our emotional vocabulary tends to be somewhat really restricted to, I'm angry, I'm happy. You follow me? The other tends...
Which others?
So whether it be resentment, right? Like how many people, how are you feeling right now? Would respond and say, well, I'm feeling resentful. You with me? Most people will say, I'm upset, right? I'm angry, right? Why are you angry? Well, no, okay, so why? Well, also you have some resentment against what I did. Yes. Also, what is coming out of that? You're acting like you're angry. So behind all of that really is the resentment, right? But many people won't name that as what it is, right? But they'll see the anger. So it's something very similar to what Ayana is saying. Like we see these things, right? We see the final thing that comes out of it. But the things that lead up to it, I think, is where, and this is what takes practice, right? Is where the consciousness comes in that, okay, you know what? I have started to feel these changes in how I'm either saying something, how my physiological responses, I'm starting to feel this. So what is happening right now? But that's an awareness, and that's going into something. But to answer the question, I think that that if we've gotten to the point where we are consciously angry with Allah, and I know I'm angry with Allah, that we have stepped overboard already, right? If we are,
say that again.
if we are consciously aware that we are angry with Allah, and we either stay in that place or we say it's, I'm angry with you, Allah, and I consciously utter that I'm angry with you, Allah, and I know what I'm saying, we have crossed a threshold that is very problematic from where I'm sitting, So the minute you become aware of your anger and you're comfortable with that, with respect to your Lord, and I can by extension, but with respect to your Lord specifically, then there's a problem there that sits in the heart, I think. Right?
So there was a reaction.
Well, yes, because it comes back to what this lovely sister was saying initially. She was talking about momentary anger versus permanent anger. So I feel like Chrissy's talking about the permanent anger. So maybe not if he, hold on. So maybe that. So momentary anger is for me like a human. It's human to be momentarily angry at your Lord, and then you're only angry at your Lord with permission from Him, is what I'm thinking. So if I'm angry and Allah has, and I don't know.
Go ahead, Doug.
Okay, so you're angry with Allah momentarily, and it's by His permission, and it's also by His permission whether you stay in that state permanently, or whether you stay in that state temporarily. And it's a mercy if it's just temporary. That is a mercy from Allah. And if you stay there and like it's a shift in your behavior and everything becomes skewed and Allah is to blame for everything, that I think is massively problematic.
And society and them have some responses.
Okay, so I'm gonna go to my favorite brothers right here because I know there's some real stuff coming out this corner.
Yeah.
So,
Well, first thing that popped in my mind was when I was 7. I don't know everybody in here, but I'm going to share this anyway. For the benefit of the class. Okay. I was extremely angry. I was exposed to some things at that age. For instance, my mother, she was in prison for murdering my father. Okay, so I knew this. So I was being taken care of by a wonderful older woman who I call my grandma, and she would always call me the patience. When I wanted something, I wanted it immediately. So I had a very vicious temper. So there was one incident where she was saying, just be patient. And I just blurted out, I don't know if I need to make Toba after I say this or whatever. I said, I hate you, God, because she would constantly call me to God, be patient, be patient. I had no patience. So not understanding what patience was, I think was the key to why my anger was so overt and just explosive. I didn't know what it was. So I think once a person gets to it, and now later on, I reflect on it, and I say, when I said that, that was like, that's something that I can look at and recognize Allah's mercy in a way that someone who didn't have that experience would. But now that I'm older and I understand what patience is, once you have an understanding of what it is to be patient, then it's not okay to be angry with the law. But if you are totally incapable or not in a position to understand what it is, what patience is, then Allah, Allah, He allows for people to learn from their imperfection.
Excellent. Shukran for that. You didn't have to go there. Shukran. Abdulaziz, you want to add something?
I have a little issue about getting angry with Allah. I can really fathom that to the degree, because I would look at it as being Majnun. You got to be crazy. In my childhood, I came up in the Pentecostal church, so we were scared of everything, the Trinity, the Holy Ghost, and all of that. And he was thinking about that. Right.
That's a real critique right
there. You're scared of everything, right? So just looking at that sentence right now, I get chills, because of that respect that you had to have for the Creator.
Right.
And the maturity part of my life, after becoming Muslim, and adverse things happen. It tells you that most of man's, downfalls are created by his own hands. And you balance that, and before you get angry, most of the time you know where it's coming from.
So I want you all to hold on as much as you can, because there's a lot of good stuff emerging. The unpacking of what the actual emotion of anger is, and then marrying that to the experiences that we're hearing and sharing. Okay, it's important that we think about this question. It's important that we think about it. And at the end of the session, I want to give you all a little assignment. I want to contextualize it a bit more, but from a different lens. And it'll make sense. Some of what I'm doing will make sense when we consider, because part of anger, when we look in the tradition, some of the prophets, what did the prophet say to the man with him? He told him, don't get angry. And so the assumption could be that means I'm always supposed to be happy, always supposed to be satisfied. You can push me, slap me, stomp on me, steal from me, pillage me, and I'm good because God is with me. It could be that assumption, could be, unless we unpack that a bit. What does he mean when he says, don't get angry? And I think that we're hearing the answer. We know what that means. We know from the advice that was given as a child that we couldn't understand it. At the time, 7 years old, those are just words. Because the words, I hear you, but this pain is real, right? So we keep those things in mind. So guys, let's hear from some of the people online.
Oh, sure. Sister Saida, said, one of the main things she said is her first response was that, well, one of the things she said in summary is that yes, she sees that some of the other emotions may have preceded anger as well, and Sister Saida, you know what, you can talk instead of me summarizing. Sister Saida?
Yes.
Yes, you can go ahead and respond. People will hear you.
All right. Well, I said that I felt that yes, we could be angry because Allah Ta'ala knows that we don't have the ability to always understand His decrees for us immediately. And I use an example of a tragedy where a parent loses a child in something that seems senseless. The first response might be anger, but if you think about it and you have time, usually it is not actually anger, it is some other emotion, grief or pain or confusion that precedes what we call anger. If we say anger is a secondary emotion, I feel, for healthy people. The first response is anger is a later emotion that's thought about. If you keep that, if we're talking about you keep that, then you would say that this person would change their behavior. And if you change your behavior, you change your ibadah, like leave the salah, you don't fast, you refuse to give greetings to other Muslims. Things like that indicate a sincere anger. So I thought, yes, it's okay in the beginning to be what we call anger, but if you really look at it, usually it's not anger or something that's really, it's more confusion, misunderstanding, I don't understand why, those kinds of things. Thank you, Brother Kais.
Shukran, Sister Saida.
Okay. Anyone else?
Yeah, there was a response that says that anger, agreed with Fatima, that anger is a choice, that when you come to terms with anger towards someone is divinely right. So that anger is a choice, and saying that you're angry with Allah is is not an option. To say that you're angry with Allah is not an option. And the minute you start towing the line that it is okay to be angry with Allah, right? That even if you put those words out there, right? That it's okay to be angry with Allah, then you have given yourself permission to start approaching that, and that can become very dangerous, right? And that is very dangerous. So the idea, from what I'm understanding, is you're not even telling yourself it's okay to be angry with Allah, right? Understanding that something can happen is one thing, but telling yourself, hey, you know what? This happens, this is okay, is something very different. And by giving yourself that permission to be angry with Allah, then you start coming closer to a point where you can actually step over to a certain extent. So there's no option.
So it's a real red zone.
Yeah, so there's no option to be angry with Allah from this perspective.
Why are we talking about this? Well, we're talking about this because it is very, very conceivable that either in our personal lives or in the lives of people that we care about, people may struggle with the management of these deeply held emotions and feelings. And it is very important that we who understand, that was a word that's been going around a lot. What do we mean by understand? Deborah, you said understand, patience. So how do we understand patience? Understanding here can be translated to knowledge, learning. And the first thing that we learn is what you said, Diana, about permission, that Allah permitted us to have these feelings. It's all connected to Allah. And understanding who we are in relationship to Allah. And it's very, very critical because that understanding, that knowledge will dictate, even though you don't have the momentary feeling, the momentary state, because anything is okay momentarily. I repeat, anything is okay momentarily. But when it becomes a permanent state, as you mentioned, Vice, so that moment, and you really, even if you say it out loud, oh, wait a minute. Now let me think about this. And why do I say this? Because ignorance is extremely dangerous. And Shaitan has a way of toying with human emotions. And I'm going to give you a real life situation. So a few years ago, a friend of my family, they lost their son. Their son was murdered. So I was called to counsel the mother. So she called me. She just wanted to talk. And we talked. And in one of our conversations, she mentioned to me, she was cried, because it was really terrible situation. So it was really hard for her. Her oldest child, she had other sons, but it was her oldest, and she really had a special connection to him, right? And so she said, 2-3 months later, Imam, I'm still crying about this. And I quote, I have made my peace with Allah, but I went to Juma and somebody was talking, me and another sister, we were conversing, and I started crying again about my son, and the sister said, why are you crying? It's Allah's decree. It's not a good thing for you to keep crying about this. You have to accept Allah's decree. Now I'm certain that the person had good intentions. They thought they were doing the Islamically correct thing. But when you unpack that, that's crazy. That's crazy talk. And I'm saying it like that because being a righteous believer or being, it's a matter of consciousness, it's a matter of choice, and it's a very sensitive thing. And understanding the frailty of the human soul, oftentimes those of us that are cloaked in the mantles of religious righteousness, we play with fire because we hurt people more than we help them. Not like grandma, not like mom, not like grandma. They had our best interests at heart. But in our interactions, and particularly if we are people who speak to other people, counsel other people, teach other people, people come to for advice, we have to be mindful, right? So we can't just throw a hadith out there. Someone confides in you. Brother Salim, man, I'm struggling. Right now, I'm not in a good place with my Lord. Right? Your response can't be, don't you know the prophet said don't be angry? because that response is like you took a paddle and slapped them in the face with it. Because so whatever it is, whatever the deeper emotion is, you just stuffed it further down. Right? The prophetic tradition, we have to think about these things, because never are we to assume that the prophet said that we can't be human. So what is the wisdom in him saying not? We're discovering the wisdom in our conversation. We're saying that that's a state that we cannot enter into or stay in.
Right.
Right? And so the textual evidence that it is humanly possible is what Sister Sabora said about Prophet Yunus. So go read his story in the Quran, and you'll see that Prophet Yunus was frustrated because he was going to talk to the people and they didn't pay him any mind. And he said, well, where's my victory? Where are my angels? I'm out of here. And the verse says that he was angry. That's why the story of Jonah is what? The whale. So he said, I'm gonna go take a ride on the sea and leave all these people to hell. And the verse says that he believed that we would not be able to overtake him. Who's we? Allah.
Yeah.
Allah is saying this kid is running off like it's up to him. So we've all said that ultimately, and Fatima said it best when she said it emphatically, it's a decision that you make if you're courageous enough to look at the facts. What are the facts? Well, most people aren't going to be, you have to have a identify it. Now you have to own it. You have to own it and then move to do something about it. Okay? So now the monkey wrench that I'm going to throw in this whole thing. That question was the easy question. Right? So now the sub question, the two parts that are contextualized. I'm gonna let y'all walk home with those. In case you throw a tantrum, might bust out crying, might burst out laughing, might get whatever. But inshallah, we're gonna talk to each other next week about that part. Okay? So for now, Fatima, we're gonna read. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, go ahead, Fatima. So we'll start on point number 26, not to be envious.
Not to be envious of anyone. The reality of jealousy is that it is one of the ugliest and deadliest sins. It is considered a grave spiritual deficit in the character of the believer. It is often a result of a bad perception of another person or a bad opinion about the law. It is important that we respect the frailty of our own soul by seeking refuge in the law, not only the evil effect of jealousy directed
from, not only from. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, not only from the evil effect of jealousy directed
towards us.
No, I'm not taking my pages out of it. My next page goes into sexual support in the Quran or law tells us.
Yeah.
Oh, my page cut off, because I had two words. Okay.
But the lurking of evil jealousy in our hearts. Okay.
In the Quran, Allah states, O Prophet, I seek refuge with the Lord of daybreak against the harm of what he has created, the harm of the night when darkness gathers, the harm of witches when they blow on knives, the harm of the envier when he envies. In the Quran, Allah also states, the believers are brothers, so make peace between your two brothers and sisters, and be mindful of Allah so that you may be given mercy. In another verse, Allah states, do they envy other people for the bounty that Allah has granted them? One of the points that the verse clarifies is that some people were jealous of the Prophet ﷺ because Allah favored him with prophethood. In Hadith, the Prophet ﷺ states, beware of jealousy, for verily, jealous eats away good deeds the way fire eats away wood.
Okay, so pause for a minute. So, according to a spiritual definition, we can add jealousy as one of the deeper emotions related to anger. We could. Okay. And on that, so I'm going to share something with you. So we're going to go back momentarily to Surah Yusuf. And we talked about Surah Yusuf, and I'm assuming that we read it. Did we read all of the Surah? How many people read the entire Surah? Honestly, it's so refreshing. So Tiffany and Hakeem, the entire Surah, right? Because in order to make a determination, because our initial reaction about the Surah was what? When we read that a household of prophethood had individuals in it who had jealousy and resentment towards one another, and they plotted to kill their little brother. And then one of them said, no, don't kill him. Let's just throw him in the desert and let the wolves kill him.
What you talking? You said Yunus or
Yusuf. Yusuf, right? So I'm going to call us back to the beginning of the surah. And this is a handout that I have. I'm going to give it to you, inshallah. And you can use it as a guide when you read this surah. You have to read the surah from the beginning to the end, because the story is throughout the entire surah. So the surah starts out. Joseph said to his father, Father, I dreamed of 11 stars and the sun and the moon. I saw them all bow down before me. And he replied, my son, tell your brothers nothing of this dream, or they may plot to harm you, for Satan is man's sworn enemy. This is about how your Lord will choose you, teach you to interpret dreams, and perfect his blessing on you in the house of Jacob, as he has perfected it earlier on your forefathers Abraham and Isaac. Your Lord is all-knowing and wise. And what we want to call to mind, some points when we reflect on this surah. In order to learn some of the lessons, some of the spiritual insights, first of all, you have to read the entire surah. One of the themes that emerges immediately is jealousy or jealousy rooted in sibling rivalry. That's one of the themes, right? The other point is that one of the key words for understanding the spiritual insights is found in the statement of Yusuf's father, for Satan is man's sworn enemy. Another point, although Yusuf's father had spiritual insight into the nature of this test, he was not able to prevent it from happening. And point number 4, because of this realization, he surrendered to the decree of Allah. And the evidence of that is your Lord is all-knowing and wise. Those are just 3 verses. I mention those verses because it tells us why the brothers were jealous. The brothers were jealous, first of all, when you hear what Yusuf said to his father. As a child, probably 6 or 7 years old, Daddy, I had a dream, and in the dream, I saw the sun, the moon, and 11 stars prostrate. That was a prophetic dream that he has a child. He said it to his father, who realized out of all of my children, Yusuf was the one. Uh-oh. So he gave him fatherly advice because he knew the reality of the human condition. Don't tell your brothers. Because he had older brothers that I'm sure they thought they were the ones that should have been. Don't tell them. We are to assume that Yusuf did what?
Told him.
He did what a 7-year-old would do.
Told him.
Even though Daddy said don't do it. Guess what, guys? I saw the sun and the moon. Right? And why did his father tell him not to tell his brothers? Because in spite of your best efforts, Shaitan is going to try to get you and exploit that. Right? So this is a lesson. For us, one of the lessons is that even the spiritually, they're not immune to Shaitan. There's no immunity. So the worship, the dhikr, all of this stuff is an immunity for us. It helps us, but it's not a guarantee. Right? It's not a guarantee unless Allah so wills it to be that we are protected. Right? So he said to Yusuf, don't tell your brothers anything of this dream, for they may plot against you. For certainly Satan is man's sworn enemy. And then he explained to his son. So his son, that's why we can assume that Yusuf told his brothers, because he said, this is how your Lord will choose you. So Yusuf, as a child, knew that he was special. A special child, just they won't be able to contain that. They can't hold that in because they're innocent. They won't be able to hold that in. And he also said very specifically that he will teach you to interpret dreams. So the story of Yusuf is the whole story is the interpretation of that dream because it happened. Because the sun was metaphor, his dad, the moon was his mother, and the 11 stars were his siblings. And fast forward, that's why you have to read the entire story. That happened, that moment, when Yusuf was a man. And he said, this is the interpretation of that dream. So Yaqub couldn't give him the interpretation of the dream. But he understood the power of the images in the dream. The symbols, he understood for his 7-year-old child to have that dream. Okay? And to perfect his blessing on you and the house of Jacob. So I'm going to, Jada, being that you are next to the youngest person in the room, Jabril, right? Jamil is the youngest today. I'm going to task you with handing out copies. I already know I don't have enough. So if you could make some extra copies for me, I would really appreciate that. Okay, right. Yeah. Okay, Fatima, continue not to become angry.
Out of control anger is the root cause of many destructive behaviors, physical as well as spiritual. It is often based upon the fact that when encountering certain situations, or if you are dealt with in a manner that is perceived as unkind, we may respond to anger or with anger. Oftentimes, our response is due to the fact that we may lose our temper, which balances us. and succumb to the impulses of unfettered anger. This is considered a form of losing control of the self. It is for this reason that the messenger of Allah, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, advised the man to never get angry.
So now this comment is really for like situational anger. So if someone does something, you get upset. But this is not, that's why we had the discussion. Because this is a deeper discussion of anger. Okay, but this situational anger is also important. The prophet said that if you ever are in a situation where you're angry, in the sunnah, the prescription is what?
Change your position.
Change your position. And this has really, physiologically, it works. Yes.
Okay, what if it's a situation where that even though you do all of that, there might be a certain person that you come around that knows how to jerk the chain or whatever.
Right. Push the buttons.
Yeah, and even though you do that, it resolves it at the moment, but the next time that person, it constantly be happening, what's the cure for that? I mean, you know, at a certain point, you either going to act out on anger or you're going to avoid the person completely.
Depending on who the person is, you may need to avoid that person. But every situation is different.
When you said act out on the anger, what did you mean?
Well, you know, if I keep doing this to him, he's going to be like, oh, stop. You know what I mean? Because it's irritating. You know, it becomes irritating, you know. And it's just, you know, even though at that moment you might get sorry for doing that, but then if it comes again, you know. Everybody in this room, I might be wrong, has somebody that even if that person might be in that, you know, chemistry don't work as a this person.
And that's real.
You know what I mean? And I know people like that. And I don't like that I feel that way, but
Yeah, that's
I appreciate
part of
that.
the task. That's part of your task.
Right.
yeah, I know, but my goodness. You know, there's some people like, you never see this.
Fatima, you had your hand up.
Well, I was going to say something similar. I was like, but that still has to do with you. That's your personal, how you respond to something is you. What that person is doing and what they are accountable for and how they are, what they're putting out isn't necessarily what you have to do. So that's still you.
Okay.
It's all the pill is swallowed. Go ahead.
It's a what now?
Hard pill to swallow.
Well, that's the pill we got to swallow. We use a word in here. The word that we use is ownership. Ownership is a hard pill to swallow. Okay, go ahead, Fatima. In the Quran.
In the Quran, Allah Most High states, hurry towards your Lord's forgiveness, and the garden as wide as the heavens and the earth. Prepare for the righteous. Those who give both in prosperity and in adversity, who restrain their anger and pardon people. Allah loves those who do good.
So just like deciding to become angry is a decision, or becoming angry is a decision, pardoning people is also a decision. So perhaps some of this is learning how to make better decisions in our interpersonal relationships. My goodness, how many copies did you make? Did your brother?
They all got right?
Yes. Everybody got it? Wow. Real thorough. Okay. Allah loves those who do good. Go ahead, in the hadith.
In the hadith, the Prophet ﷺ states, the strong person is not the one who can overcome his foes. The strong person is the one who can control his anger.
What page we on?
Do we have that page?
Yeah.
Which page?
It's 17.
I have a question on that.
Yes, sir.
Even if you, something happens and you like, I explode, but you control it, how do you channel?
See Brother Salim.
Yeah.
Or Brother Jabir.
Yeah.
or a deed.
What's you been though? I thought it was a plumber.
See? There you go. There you go, see? Why did I get wet?
He's using that on you now.
Okay, so you just answered your own question.
Well,
Okay.
no.
Can I answer this question?
Yes.
Can I answer this question? I've been a firearms enthusiast for many years. All right, so but before I became an instructor, I got my carry permit and I was carrying a gun like everybody else. And I was walking across the street. This was way back in the 80s. And this guy almost hit me with the car. The first thing I did was like that. And I caught myself. I said, oh my God, what are you doing? What are you, is that where you go first? And that changed my whole look toward firearms and everything else. And that's when I realized you have to have alternatives. That's what got me into martial arts. I said, that can't be my first and last response. You know, so, but that's not really answering your question. Okay, Imam said you have to channel it to other places. And you said something about him being a plumber. It don't make no difference.
No, I was joking.
I know, but I'm saying it don't make no difference. What you do, you can use that to channel your energy somewhere else. Okay. And martial arts.
Well, mine is music, so.
Martial arts is a
Have you played lately?
When you saw me playing, I showed you the video.
Okay.
I was like, you know, deleted it accidentally.
Yeah, she's up about that. She
Okay, Father, we'll keep going.
Oh,
Not to wish harm.
Not to wish harm for anyone. Carrying malice in one's heart towards others is a serious disease of the heart. Oftentimes, it is the justification for harm or pain inflicted upon others. We should reflect on the fact that had Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam harbored hatred in his heart towards the people who harmed him, he would not have been able to keep any companions around him. In the Quran, Allah states, "It is by the mercy of Allah that you were lenient towards them." Gentle in your dealings. Had you been hard-hearted towards them, they would have dispersed from around you and left. So pardon them and ask for forgiveness for them. Consult with them about matters. Then, when you have decided on a course of action, put your trust in Allah. For Allah loves those who put their trust in Him.
So, one of the essential tools, operational tools, that a teacher, counselor, chaplain, an imam, a sheikh, a sheikhah, a parent, a mentor must have is empathy. 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 The Prophet ﷺ, without question, was empathetic, because we are to assume that the companions, although they took Shahada before us and we read about them in the books and we're told about them and all of those things, we are to assume that they were people. And people working with people, leading people in any type of capacity brings with it its own unique set of challenges. So if you're not strong in empathy, you should get strong. Otherwise, you may want to choose a different profession. Because that position is a position where, if you're not careful, you can hurt people more than you help them. If you just imagine that every time one of the companions did something wrong, out of line, and the Prophet's response was, "You're going to hell. That's it. I said do it like this, you did it like that. I'm the Prophet, you're not. Guess what?" Well, really, how many companions would he have had around him? Really? Would we be reading about the depth of love that the companions had for him because he was empathetic. And then Allah affirmed this in this verse. It was by the mercy of Allah that you were lenient towards them, gentle in your dealings. Because most of the time, not all of the time, most of the time, leniency and gentleness wins. Most of the time. Sometimes you can't be lenient or gentle or merciful. But most of the time, when we think about it, we can decide to do that. Okay? Ultimately, in the hadith, the Prophet states,
In the hadith, the Prophet states, and do not hate one another, and do not envy one another. Do not backstab or undermine one another. Do not cut off one another. Boycott. Be instead brothers and sisters or servants of God. It is impermissible for one Muslim to break away from another Muslim for more than 3 days.
okay, and I know we hear this a lot, right? But this requires some unpacking. The Prophet, peace be upon him, is using very, very strong language, impermissible, to caution us that we should only do this we should only break off from people that matter in our lives, right? It's not everybody, right? Under the direst of circumstances. So not speaking to someone for 3 days is like the last resort. But some people may need more than 3 days. And that's cool. It's okay to do that because it's not haram. That's the point I'm trying to get to. Right? Because you have to honor where you are. And sometimes prematurely reconnecting with someone without, especially if the other person is not owning their part, may do more harm than good. Right? So, but it is a sunnah that we should try to practice. Because in the big picture, we're going to do stuff to one another. And most of the time, it's really, as we say, it's really not that deep.
I'm laughing now because I was thinking that, we take it like, all right, man, your 3 days is up, man. Like, what's up, man?
Right.
Come on out of that thing. Change up.
Right.
Come talk to me.
Right.
How you gonna force them?
Yeah.
You got
but
3 days.
but sometimes that'll work. It really depends on your relationship.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
In another 3 days. Another 3 days, right? But, I've had that happen to me personally. Me and a friend, we stopped talking. And it just so happened that circumstances dictated that we didn't see each other for a long time. Like a year and a half. And then when we saw each other again, we maintained the posture. I'm like, I'm not really cool with you, man. And he said, "That's how long we're gonna do this." And because it was a brother that I had love for, he had love for me, we just bust out laughing, like, yeah, right. I mean, why are we doing this? Why are we posturing? Okay, because whatever happened, what happened anyway?
Right.
We started talking about it, and it's like his account, and it sounded so silly. After all of the high emotions died down, it's like, oh, come on, really? Okay, and so that's how that works. But it can be, it is a good sunnah to be aware of, but to understand, that it's a grave thing when you cut off a relationship with someone, even if it's temporary. It sends a message, and it's intended to send a message. Go ahead.
My question is that I keep examining that question and looking at the adjectives that are attached to it. Is it okay to question a while? That's where that took me to.
With the adjectives when you become.
So you're going to, well, we're not going to get into that, because that's going to take us back. But with the little assignment, I'm going to read the questions that I'm going to send you home with. And you'll come back and tell me.
All right.
Hey, ma'am, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
I know 3 things for the course of a period of time. But how about somebody that did something to you that really exposed their character, right?
Right.
And, in situations like that, I just told to like avoid this person totally, right? Because somebody that was close to me, but when you do something like that, really expose the character of the person.
Right. Well, every situation is different.
So that 3 thing was like, okay.
So I'm gonna ask you, what did your mama say to this? I'm serious. Somebody shows you.
Well, I'll tell you what my father said. My father said when he said, you get more accepted of things you can't control, and things you can't control, you lose sight of.
Okay.
Right, but I mean, I gotta go myself on that one.
Yeah.
Mom, my father, whatever it said is.
So I'll tell you what my
forgiveness.
I'll tell you what my father told me. My father told me that if a man shows you who he is, believe him.
Yep.
Don't believe what you want to believe.
That's right.
Believe because he knows him better than you know him. So if he shows you who he is, believe him. Now, when you translate that, that may not mean that I'm gonna talk to him.
Right.
It'll just mean that there are a lot of filters, a lot of processing, a lot of watchfulness, right?
When you have back in that circle again.
Right.
You never be that tight.
Right. And see, these are important conversations because, there are circles. Oftentimes we refer to them as what?
Clicks.
Or, because click has a negative connotation.
My inner circle.
Exactly. Right? So with the click is different because the click could be folk that we play the game with.
I shouldn't have said
But the inner circle, the one where there's trust, those are the people that we now expose ourselves, we open up, we talk, we're really who we are. And I correlate that to, well, there's brotherhood in Islam.
Yep.
There's sisterhood in Islam.
No, I was saying Imam Al-Ghazali speaks about, when he speaks about the brotherhood, he speaks
Absolutely.
about it in these different.
Absolutely. There's brotherhood and there's sisterhood. So, as we know, because Chuck D said, every brother ain't a brother. Chuck D said, every brother ain't a brother. Every sister ain't a sister. So there is that process where we, there's people that we are with, and then there's people that we're with. And that's okay. Go ahead.
Sister said, I had a question, and I think it's part of, but anyway, I want to ask a question. Is breaking off the same as giving someone what is due from one Muslim to another, but not faking that you have a deep and genuine relationship with them? And to give an example of family breaking off ties and not having dinner or drinking with someone, but would give them the salams and stuff like that, but you won't continue the closeness of the relationship with them. So
it's not the same.
It's not the same.
No,
right.
It's not the same. The short answer is that it's not the same. Go ahead, Fatima. Not to have love.
Not to have love for the world. This point speaks to the danger of having love for the world, meaning this temporal realm of existence takes root in one's heart. There's a natural inclination in everyone to have a love for the world. In fact, Allah enumerates some of the things that appeal to us about the deen. The love of desirable things is made alluring to people, women and men, children, women and children. Children, gold and silver treasures piled up high, horses with fine markings, livestock and farmland. These may be the joys of this life, but Allah has the best place to return to. It is therefore an established fact that we have within us a natural love for the life of this world. It is the place where we experience many forms of good. On the other hand, the world is also a place of much misery, pain, loss, and destruction. In order to understand this point of view better, we should reflect on the way Allah describes the world as dunya in the Quran. In the Quran, Allah warns us about the life of the dunya. O mankind, verily the promise of Allah is true. Therefore, do not let the vain falsehood of the world deceive you.
That's it cut off. Okay.
No, I think so. That's just it.
That was it. Okay. So just a quick point on the dunya. Because oftentimes people, especially spiritual people, in some of our language, we talk about not having attachment to the world, not loving the world. And the care that we have to take with that is that Allah created the dunya. Right? So there's a part of the reality of life in the world that's fine. We're expected to engage in the dunya, right? To pursue our interests, right? To pursue and to even thrive if we can, if that's meant to be, right? So it's an imbalance and sometimes in spiritual literature, there's this talk of abstaining from the world, abstaining from the dunya, right? Well, this we have to be careful because it may suggest to some that, I don't have anything to do with the world, I'm just going to pray all the time. And this is certainly not what Allah calls us to. And had He called us to this, the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam would have taught us this. But the flip side, the other side of the coin that we have to be careful of is to not overindulge. Because we know that the state of this dunya is temporary. It's temporary. Why? Because the world ends in this reality. Where's it end in? Death. Do you know anybody that hasn't died? Like huh?
You want to hear?
Thank you, Brother Christ, for that very, very astute observation. So we're not dead. We don't think we're dead, right?
That was heavy, guys.
But you hear about fine science fiction movies, novels, and some people and vampires. Some people are in the pursuit of this everlasting life. It's a dream. It's a Shaitan is playing games with folk because the reality is back a long time ago, when I used to read conspiracy literature and I used to read about the cryogenic. Yeah. So some people have had their bodies preserved in ice, liquid ice, for the time in the future when man would discover how to live forever. How to live forever. And how silly that is. Because everybody dies. And the thing that Allah calls us to, the thing that we're reminded of is that death is as normal as birth. Go ahead, Tim.
I don't remember exactly where I heard it from, but I think it might have been like a lecture. I watched a lot of stuff online, and the lecturer was saying that this dunya is like everything, but it's nothing at the same time. Because it's nothing compared to Jannah, but it's everything because it's our means to get there.
Right.
This is our test. This is our way to prove ourselves, where our book of deeds is written, which will ultimately. And so it's like this kind of respect, but for I'm here for a purpose. And all of these nice, beautiful things that Allah has given us for us to enjoy while we're here. But there's a focus here because there's a greater.
Just going back just a little bit, but there's the idea to practice, there's moderation. Because there's some people go to the extreme end. This dunya has nothing for me. I'm here solely for worship. So I'm going to live a life of and I remember this from my Catholic background. You live a life that's very austere. You become a nun, you become a priest, and you live this life that is all about devotion to Allah. So And even beyond that, people take it beyond that too. And then there's the life of extreme where you go, oh, it's here for me to enjoy, let's have a grand time. I feel like it's that we're supposed to live somewhere in the middle, balance it all.
That's right. So from, in our tradition, in Islam, right, we have the story of the companions who would give in the message. And there is a hadith that emerged from that situation, right? So they prayed all the time. They were in the masjid, they read Quran all the time. They studied Islam, the deen all the time, right? And then there were other men who came to the mosque, prayed with them, did some dhikr with them, and then they went back out and pursued a livelihood. Well, those men, because they were always in the mosque, they couldn't take care of themselves. So the other men that were going out would give them charity, right? And so the Prophet ﷺ was asked, who's better? Is it better for us to do this? Are the brothers that do this better, or the brothers that do the other thing better? And he said, in a variety of different ways, that the ones who pray and go out are better. And how are they better? Because they're helping to take care of you, right? So they're getting extra blessing, right? So there is this sense of the balance, and it's a balancing that we strive for, you know? It's about, and if you really strive for it, you'll notice when you're doing too much of one or another. Because there can be such a thing as too much worship even.
Right.
And I call you to the hadith of the Prophet when the people said, well, the Prophet makes the tahajjud every night. So every night for a part of the night, I'm never going to go to sleep. I'm going to pray all night, every night, one man said. Another man said, well, how does the Prophet fast? Well, the Prophet fasts every other day. So that man said, well, I'm going to fast every day. And then another man said, you know, I'm never going to get married. And if it was a woman, I'll never get married, never have a husband, because that's a distraction. And so this got back to the Prophet. What did the Prophet say? So, he said, none of you, first of all, he established that he is this, that. So he said, none of y'all, let's say it in Ebonics, none of y'all got more taqwa than me. And I fast, and I eat, and I pray, and I sleep, and I get married. So whoever deviates from my way is not of me. So the Prophet's way is what? It's balance. Right? The balance. Okay? So there is such a thing as too much. Because people are expected to live life. Okay? Father, want to read a little bit more?
Recite the testimony of faith, kalima or shahada with the tongue. Reciting the testimony of faith with the tongue is an affirmation of what the heart believes. Faith is defined in Islam as belief in the heart, affirmation with the tongue, and validation by the limbs. It is also of importance to realize that the uttering of the shahada holds spiritual merit as well. To recite the Quran. If a person wants to seek to better understand the Quran, that person should realize that understanding the Quran is a lifetime pursuit. And Prophet Muhammad suggests as much as when he stated that one of the inherent characteristics of the Quran is that it never gets old, despite of repeated readings of it. In other words, no one can truthfully claim to master the Quran, no matter how much they have memorized, reviewed, researched, or taught, for the simple fact that the Quran has meaning and that it has layers of meaning.
Okay, we're going to stop here. So I have two more handouts. One is on some practical advice for reading the Quran consistently. J-Dub. Just don't do this again. Okay, so take a little count. See how many extra you need. And then the other, Brother Jamil, can you come in? You hand these out and give every person one. You can start over there. Start with the brothers. Okay? And that is a little essay that I read, written by Imam Zaid Shakir, talking about when things get tough, what we should do.
You can wait for this one too.
Oh, you know what? He's right.
Can wait for this one.
She's gone.
Nobody don't want to get up.
She cut the corner. She's gone. She's gone. Okay, now, so before we close, I want everybody, so we started the class out with this question. Is it ever okay to be angry with Allah? Thank you, sir. I'm sorry, I don't have one for you. That's all right. Okay, so now we're going to think about this question in the context, two contexts. One, in the context of group suffering. Group suffering.
That's a question.
This is
That's the
part of
context.
homework.
Yeah. So is it ever okay to be angry with Allah in the context of group suffering? So what's the example that comes to mind?
Like people in Syria suffering.
What?
People in Syria suffering. That's a group.
Okay.
Race relations.
Okay. The Holocaust, of course, was that's other people. Let's keep it in-house. So black people. This is a real question.
Like oppression?
Yes. Oppression or the perception of oppression.
State the question again.
Is it ever okay? So this is the question, but the context now we're going to think about race relations, black people and oppression,
Religious hatred.
religious oppression, okay, prejudice.
In the context of group suffering.
Right. So this is going to change some things. Okay? We're going to think about it spiritually, hopefully. So I'm not interested in people's political views. Okay, we're going to talk about this, right? We're going to think about it. I want you to think about this because it's a real question. The second context is, so if you're going to put on the hat of what I mentioned, an imam, a sheikh, a sheikha, a counselor, a chaplain, for a moment. And the scenario is that someone comes to you and expresses this emotion, that they're angry with Allah. How would you counsel them? You don't have to write a thesis or a dissertation or paper. You don't have to write a paper. Some of us be tempted to write a paper. Don't write a paper. If you write a paper, I'm not going to read it. I'm telling you to read it.
We'll read it to you.
Okay? But don't hold back. So it's two situations. One is group suffering. The other is in the context of someone coming to you and expressing that this is where they are. How would you converse with that person? Okay? We're gonna have some fun. Yes.
So you want this in writing?
Of course. That's why you're going home with it.
So the limit is like 2 paragraphs? Did you say it?
Let's just say, try to be reasonable, right?
Okay.
let's try to be, I don't want the history of slavery. I don't want like 15 references. Huh?
250 words, single space.
You know, I mean, this is just.
One way to think about it is to picture that person being in front of you. You don't want to sit there with them all day. You want to give them something, you know, short and sweet and to the point, because if you belabor it, it makes it worse. So
Let's use the concept of KISS.
keep it simple.
Keep it simple.
Okay, but I think, so the second situation is more where you brothers are talking about. The first one is really big when you unpack it in the group context, because it reflects oftentimes attitudes that a community may have, people's identities about themselves, right? In the large context, we're part of a group, right? And when we want to answer that question, why did certain things happen? Right? It's a good exercise for reflection.
I got some.
What was that now? That's a what question? A big question. Trying to do big things, right? Yes.
Like I said, with the question of black people as a whole, I think the smaller group of us, the small amount of us, would get it quicker than if it's a lot of us.
How much read?
Meaning that if it's a group of, like, okay, because a certain amount of us who get it as far as, like, say, we embrace Islam because maybe there's certain things about maybe Christianity, certain things we just start thinking is like, something's not right about this, it has to be more than this, something that has more answers to it. So a small amount of us start searching that direction, and then we wind here. While the rest of them could do the same thing, but it's more easier just to like, okay, you know, it's too much thinking to do. I'm just gonna, I've heard people say that, you know, that's too much thinking, or I gotta read all this, you know, I'm okay, you know. And it's kind of they know they should do it. Like I had, okay, here's the true story. Downtown Brooklyn years ago, I had an Afro-American brother who was a pimp, a real pimp, say to me, I know Islam is right, but I'm not ready to embrace it because I'm at a shake doing this. Or I've heard people say this, I really don't want to become Muslim because I don't want to give up pork. Like little stupid stuff. You know what I mean? When that's the only thing that's keeping me from doing it. That's like that. So a lot of us will come out of a lot of things that we're going through as a people, but a lot of us don't want to have to make that sacrifice or make that change. Some people don't like change at all. They'd rather stay doing what they're doing, but the change, like it says in the translation of the Quran, some less, a lot of change conditional of people that change within themselves. A lot of us don't want to change within ourselves. And that will make the thing happen, but they don't want to do it. So we made a change in ourselves. I guess that's why others could, but they don't want to, you know, or they think they got time, you know, I do when I get older. And the next thing, you know, death comes to them at 18. It's like, oh, man, because you know how I say in the crowd, people will be blaming each other. Well, if I hadn't listened to you and blah, blah, blah. Well, give me another chance. I'll get it now. You know it's like when you heard it then, but you want to, I always like to use the story, the rabbit and the turtle. I said the Muslims are the turtle, who are people laughing at because you're going on slowly, sticking what we're doing, and the rabbit is the people that are doing you chilling and all that. And I win the race. I can just party over here for a minute, and then I'll get myself together, and then before they realize it, they wake up, this is John Locke. That sound crazy? Okay, look me out of your face like, whatever. Let's do it, let's go. It was respectably listened to me. I really want to go.
I'm glad you think so. Go ahead.
You weren't thinking that.
This is what I asked you last week. It's very important because when you use psychology,
yes, sir.
This is how I would a protocol to address the people in individual sessions. You don't have all that time. you have to do, and that forces me to strip away all the other things and get right down to like back in the day, just the facts.
Right.
You know, so, and I'm going to continue. That's right in line with what I'm doing.
Okay. Anything from this side of the room? You good? Okay. So I'm gonna now turn you over to Imam Anas.
What book do you have?
What's that? Oh, this is a translation.
Translation of what?
Of Quran. Okay, so we're gonna close out SubhanAllah wa bihamdihi, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. So I'm asking, it doesn't have to be perfect, but bring something, whatever your thoughts are, write them down, doesn't have to be perfect, and just come prepared to share. We'll take a part of the class and talk about it. Sure.
Go
Because whenever it's paid,